Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about Kiana Shaw's concept of mechanical lore. All right. Um, so, yeah, let's jump into this. All right. So, Sean Tompkins, he creates Ironsworn, and he retweeted this tabletop role playing game designer's one tweet resume. Brilliant. I absolutely love this concept. So, this woman by the name of Kiana Shaw, she's a tabletop role-playing game designer, and she's looking for work, right? So she just put it out. She's like, hey, I'm looking for work. This is what I do. And in her one tweet resume, it says diegetic prose, right? I love this. I've already done a video on it, and she's just like, I know more than you. Like, that's what 2 words of, that's what diegetic prose. Like, when you need to look up, like, what people's language in their resume it means, hey, I do more than you do, I know this better than you do, right? Which is what you want to project, right? Because people want to, you're saying, hey, you need to hire me because I can do this better than you, right? And so I think diegetic prose just screams mastery of tabletop role-playing game design, right? But she has this other one in there, mechanical lore. Now, somebody else might have, invented the term mechanical lore, but they didn't get it in front of me in any significant way, right? And so the reality is, and I think we've definitely arrived here, right? Where, like, it kind of doesn't matter who invents somebody. It matters who brings it to the public in a prominent way, right? Like, and so I'm going to say Kiana Shaw's mechanical lore, because if somebody else invented it, they didn't do a good job of attaching their name to it, right? Like, and that's another one. Like, that's why I say Gary Gygax, he created Dungeons and Dragons, because the reality is Dave Arneson was there, but he didn't do a good job of letting anybody know. Well, actually, he projected exactly who and what he was. Dave Arneson didn't matter. He was a lazy sack, and he did virtually nothing, in my humble opinion. And in my humble opinion, his name does not belong anywhere near Dungeons and Dragons. And the reason why is it's very clear. Like, if it had been up to Dave Arneson, Dungeons and Dragons would have been a concept that died on a napkin, right? Whereas it hit Gary Gygax, and Gary Gygax is like, I'm going to put my blood, sweat, and tears into this, and I'm going to drive until this thing is done. And even when it's done, right, like, even when it's built, I'm still going to be, like, every single day pushing to make it matter, right? And he did. He just invested in a level that Arneson never did, right? So Kiana Shaw brings this forward, this idea forward of mechanical lore. And I love this concept. So what is mechanical lore? Well, I'm going to give you a perfect example of this. So these 2 words on Kiana Shaw's resume help us to understand good D&D lore and bad D&D lore. So let's talk it through. So what is mechanical lore? Well, there's a perfect example of mechanical lore sitting in, where is it? It is sitting right in Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen, right? And it's the Dragonlance, right? So F. Wesley Schneider comes up and it says, what is a Dragonlance, right? And he puts it right in the book. He's like, a Dragonlance is, first of all, it is a weapon category. It's not a specific weapon, right? So it can be a pike or it can be a lance, right? And what you do is, once you get this Dragonlance, it's a +3 weapon. That's useful to any soldier, right? That's useful to a barbarian. That's useful to a pike is useful to a barbarian. It's useful to a fighter, right? It is useful to a rogue, right? That is an incredibly useful weapon, right? And then on top of that, he's like, if you use it to attack a dragon, it'll do 3d6 extra damage. That's limited. It's not going to get used much, right? And then in addition to that, he says, also, you can give a dragon a command, and they could take an immediate, and they could do an entire action as a reaction, right? That is that, and again, you'd have to be riding a dragon for that to be useful, right? But the Dragonlance can go onto a player character's character sheet, and it's a +3 weapon, and that's dope, right? But not everybody, right? It can't really be used by a wizard, right? So this is, and the Dragonlance is a piece of lore, right? It's from the, it should just be like this, oh, and then there was this dude and he had a Dragonlance and he killed a dragon with it, right? And that is not useful lore, right? Like X Knight killed X, actually we know it specifically. Knight Sarlemere killed Golden Dragon Karavix with a Dragonlance, right? Nice little factoid, what's it mean to me, right? Whereas mechanical lore is saying, I'm designing the Dragonlance as a dragon type, or as a weapon type, as a weapon category, right? It could be a pike or it could be a lance. And that means characters can get this thing and drop it on their sheet, right? And that's what mechanical lore is this has a mechanical benefit on a player character sheet, right? And it also is saying, if your lore doesn't create mechanical benefits, it ain't no good. It sucks. And boy, oh boy, did we see this with Radiant Citadel, right? Radiant Citadel was the bog-awfulest, worst D&D canon hardback we've had in like 5 years. And the reason why is it was the opposite of mechanical lore. It was crusty, dusty lore, right? Here's lore about 15 different settings we don't need, right? Because D&D absolutely does not need another single. D&D has all anybody cares about with D&D right now is what settings are you bringing back and what are you going to put deeper into the settings we already got, right? Like D&D needs another setting, like it needs a hole in the head, right? And so Radiant Citadel is like, here's 15 new settings, right? Which ain't nobody need a one of them, right? And guess what? It doesn't impact your character in any way. There are no new spells. There are no new species. There are no new weapons. There are no new magic items of any kind. Doesn't matter whether it's not a single new magic item. It's astounding, right? Like, and so it's essentially saying, here's a whole bunch of new settings. Ain't none of them mean nothing on your sheet, right? So players hate it, and frankly, dungeon masters, they don't want to bring a setting that players aren't excited for. So in 2 words, right, Kiana Shaw says, this is the lore that matters. This is the lore that sucks, right? And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I 100% agree with her. And going forward, right, if you put lore into a game, it better matter. It better reach the sheet. Every word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments, send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.